Do you feel safe to grow in your relationships, or are you shrinking to be loved? Hi, and welcome to this guided journaling session with the Reconnection Co. Today's theme is growing pains versus shrinking pains, a concept we explored in detail in episode 9 of the Reconnection Co podcast. Now, if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I'd really recommend going back and giving it a listen first, as it will give you the emotional and psychological context behind everything we're about to explore together here. In that episode, we talked about how some relationships, romantic, platonic, even professional, can push us to become more of who we truly are. That's growing pains. Others, though, ask us to shrink, to self-abandon, to stay small, to dim our light, to maintain harmony. That's shrinking pains. And over time, it chips away at our sense of worth, our confidence, and our identity. Now, this session will help you explore whether you've been in dynamics that support your growth or ones that require you to suppress it. You'll also get clearer on what healthy discomfort feels like versus what trauma reactivation can feel like, so you can make better decisions for your emotional well-being moving forward. So before we begin, take a moment to ground yourself. Find a quiet space, silence your phone, light a candle, or grab a cup of tea. Let this be your time. You don't have to write everything perfectly. This is for you, not for anyone else. And if you feel resistance, discomfort, or emotion come up, that's okay. You can pause and return at any point. So let's begin. Prompt 1. Think of a recent relationship or interaction you had. It could have been with a romantic partner, a family member, or a situation at work. Whatever it was, think of a moment where either at the time or after the interaction you felt small. Now, feeling small could be you feeling frustrated, feeling shame, feeling angry or upset. Maybe you were ruminating after the interaction, thinking on what you should have said or what you wish you had said. So what were the circumstances? Who was involved? What happened? Be honest, outline the interaction. Don't edit anything, just copy it all down. Now that you've outlined what the circumstances of the interaction was, now I want you to explore what parts of yourself did you feel that you had to shrink in order to maintain that relationship or get through that situation. So did you have to suppress or shrink your voice, your needs, your opinions? Was it your confidence that took a hit? Did you feel like you lost some of your independence in that interaction? Remember, there is no right or wrong answer. Just outline what parts of yourself you feel you had to shrink. Anything and everything. Now, at the time of that interaction, did you believe that shrinking whatever part of you that you suppressed was necessary to avoid conflict? Was it required for you to feel loved, to feel accepted, or to stay connected? Now, in this interaction, do you feel that your shrinking was because you knew what the likely response was from the other person because you had experienced it with them before? Or was it potentially someone you hadn't experienced this with before and you had no idea how they would respond, but you were afraid of the response, possibly from past interactions or situations? Where do you think that belief came from? I want you to explore this now. Now, if this is an ongoing dynamic with a particular person, or if this is an ongoing way that you interact with different people, even possibly new people in your life, how has that impacted your self-worth or sense of identity over time? Have you noticed yourself becoming more anxious, avoiding certain interactions or conversation topics? Does it leave you feeling disconnected from other parts of your life? I want you to sit and reflect and explore how these interactions leave you feeling in the greater context of who you are. Now, let's contrast this. Can you remember a time where a relationship, now it can be any person, a romantic partner, a friend, a work colleague, Can you remember a time that you had someone who challenged you to grow? Even if it was uncomfortable, but they challenged you and supported you in a way that expanded you, not shrank you. What was different about that dynamic with that individual that spurred this positive growth? Was it the emotional support? Was it the way they spoke to you? How did they make you feel that allowed it to feel like a safe environment for you to be challenged, for you to grow? Now that you've reflected on certain situations that may shrink you and then ones that have hopefully helped you grow, what does safe growth look like for you? How is it different from the situations that make you shrink? What does a healthy discomfort feel like in your body? And how is it different from the unhealthy shrinking sensations that you feel? I want you to contrast the different emotions, and then you can link this hopefully to some of the different situations. So how do people behave and treat you to create that environment where you feel safe, where you can grow? Now this is where it potentially gets a little bit harder for you to answer, and it may take a little bit longer for you to explore this. If you were to honour your emotional growth fully, what boundaries, decisions or changes would you start making today to allow you to try and foster and create environments and boundaries with people that support your positive growth? So some examples of boundaries might be saying no without explaining yourself when something feels misaligned. It might be stop playing the peacekeeper when silence costs me my self-respect. Some decisions might be leaving spaces that make you feel like you have to shrink or suppress, even if they once felt like home. It might be starting to distance yourself from people who don't challenge you, who make you feel small, and start surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to grow in a positive way without making you feel like you're too much. It might be saying yes to therapy, support, or community, even if asking for help feels scary. Some examples of changes, it might be sitting with the discomfort of having that scary conversation where you speak up and share your feelings with your potential romantic partner or someone that you're in a relationship with, instead of waiting until the resentment builds and it boils over. Where this becomes really important is identifying if we're the ones sabotaging our relationships. Because if your partner is emotionally healthy and emotionally safe, and it's your internal fears that are stopping you from sharing your feelings, you're not honouring yourself, your partner, or the relationship by not speaking up, sharing your feelings, because if they are the right partner for you, they will want to explore this with you. But then in contrast to this, it might be walking away the first time someone shows you that they're dishonest, they're unsafe, or not emotionally safe, not the fifth time. Because sometimes it's internal boundaries and internal behaviours we need to change with ourselves that are actually holding us back and making us shrink. Or it can be the people outside of us, the people that we interact with. So it is important for us to identify what is us and inside our control and what is someone else's, and then how we control how that interaction goes in order to honour our emotional growth. Now that wraps up this session. Thank you for sharing this space with me and your time. I hope this session gave you more clarity about the difference between growing pains and shrinking pains, and what kind of relationships you want to invest in moving forward. If this session resonated with you, please give it a like, share it with someone who you feel may benefit from it, and remember to subscribe to the Reconnection Co, because there's only 10% of those of you that listen to our podcasts and watch our videos that are subscribed. And if you want to check out the full podcast episode or all of the other topics that we've explored, there is the podcast available here on YouTube or over on Spotify, where you can explore many of the topics much more in depth. Now, remember, your expansion should never come at the cost of your emotional safety or your physical safety. You deserve to grow, not shrink. And if you are struggling mentally or emotionally, I would strongly encourage you to reach out to a trained mental health professional. And on that note, I hope you feel seen, I hope you feel safe, I hope you feel heard, and I will see you next time.